Good morning, guys. I'm just on my way to start the first filming of the first interview ever for this series that I'm trying to create, which I'm still looking for a name for it. So if you have an idea or suggestions, please let me know. Basically, I'm starting this series where I'm interviewing beautiful, strong women that I meet through my job or life or anything. I truly believe that people come into your life for a reason, and I am who I am today because I've met some amazing people that, you know, shared their wisdom and experiences with me, and that's what I would like to bring to you. As a young woman in the society today, I feel like we can so empower and raise each other up and truly let us all believe that there's nothing that's impossible. And I think once you feel that support from women everywhere, it's just an amazing world to live in. So I really want to build that kind of a community on my social media, and I'm really thankful for you guys for being part of it. So today I'm interviewing Amiirah, who is this gorgeous girl that I met, a woman that I met probably like last month. She's a 29-year-old model who is actually a medical doctor that put herself through school. I found something so magical about her spirit, her energy. We clicked right away, and I just knew that there's something about her that I'm sure other young women and girls will find so inspiring and empowering. So I'm really thankful that you agreed to be part of this. That's it. Now I am almost late, so I have to go. Love you.
Oh, hello.
Okay, this is so many.
Oh, this is way better.
Right? You can see us.
Yeah.
I blend with the wall.
Do you want to change size?
Yes. I think that first maybe what I found so inspiring. Your parents are immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Where are they from?
Mauritius. Yeah, so it's like east of Madagascar. And yeah, it was very interesting because my mom and my dad had an arranged marriage. So they actually only met like very briefly before they got married. And my mom like moved across the world with this man, her husband,
Which she didn't know.
that she like barely knew. Exactly. She's like, hello, and like left her family and everybody. And so like I think just from there, I think about the things that like that generation went through, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then my parents moved here, and then it just didn't work out for my parents in terms of their marriage. And so from a pretty young age, I have two younger sisters, like they're 7 years younger than me. It was like me and my sisters and my mom. So my mom came from a traditional family. I mean, she had an arranged marriage, right? And then I would say growing up, it was definitely the same type of atmosphere. Although my mom never endorsed like she would want me to have an arranged marriage, but it was like they expected, like my family wasn't okay with me like leaving home. Like I couldn't have friends that were guys.
Yeah.
You know, I actually have one of my guy friends that used to call me and pretend that he was a girl because I would get in trouble if it was a guy.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a very common like traditional thing. Like girls, Indian girls like can't talk to guys because like no way do we talk to the opposite sex. So they would call me like, hello, can I talk to Amiirah? And then I'd pick up and be like, hello, they're like, hey.
So from a young age, you were basically really good, like strategically, you always figure out ways to
get
like,
around,
make stuff happen.
For sure, yeah. Like I think I kind of realized pretty early on, like when I was, you know, in grade 8, I kind of realized that like there was two factors. Like one, financially, I knew to go to school in Canada, like I would have to pay for it myself. And then the other thing was I needed to convince my family to let me go to school outside of like living at home and commuting, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of from a very young age, like starting in grade 9, I started applying to scholarships, kind of thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And I actually wanted to be a lawyer from the beginning. And so I went to the courthouse, I volunteered, and I got myself really set up to apply for scholarships, get really good reference letters.
Okay, that to me sounds crazy because I think about today's girls in 8th or 9th grade.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about how to get, like what can they do today to affect their future, you know, and how to get to the point that they want to see themselves. Like a lot of girls would be like, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be this, but no one is like, okay, if I'm going to start like, you know, volunteering in a courthouse or things like that, where did it come from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Where did it come from? I think, you know, for me, I think it became pretty early on, like when my parents got divorced. My mom really had to make her own way. Like she came here, she had to learn English, and when my parents got divorced, she had to get a job. And so, you know, I saw her go to night school, you know, while I was taking care of my sisters. I saw her like have to really build up from nothing while taking care of 3 girls. And I thought to myself, I am never going to be that person. Like, not that I think it's amazing that she did it, but I just didn't want to have to depend on a man.
Yeah.
For that, if something were to happen, I couldn't like make my own living, if that makes sense. And that was, you know,
a huge sense.
yeah. But you don't think about it until you're forced with that, until you see it in your reality. Like my reality was my mom trying to make it happen for her and my sisters.
Yeah.
So late in her life, and I sat there, and my parents got divorced when I was like 13, so right around grade 6, 7, and I thought to myself, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I am self-sufficient, I'm independent, I can reach my goals in life, and I want to start now.
Yeah.
And that's the impetus for me. And a lot of girls, and you know, maybe they're not thinking it because they don't see what it is in 30 years, you know?
Yeah. You know what's sad is like, we want to prevent our children to go through any hardships of kind of the things that shaped us, you know, as women, as humans.
Yeah.
We want to prevent it from them. But then, you know, talking to you, I'm thinking like, I don't want my kids to be so freaking comfortable. And that's, I think, the problem. I think that today parents are trying so hard to build this perfect life for their kids, just because they worked so hard to achieve that.
Yeah.
That those kids, they don't see, you know, the ugly side. They don't have an opportunity to kind of draw conclusions of like, okay, you know what, I'm 13.
Yeah.
If I want to get there, I need to start doing this and this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not there anymore.
You're totally right. You know, I think if you kind of looked back, that's very true. I think nobody sees what's the alternate.
Yeah. So that basically motivated you. You
100%.
wanted to be
Independent.
Hear me roar.
Yeah. Woo!
What came first, modeling, or by the way, I'm looking at my phone just because I have the questions here. Okay, so what came first, modeling or medical school?
Yeah. Modeling came first. So it's actually, I mean, now that this is going public, I guess my family's gonna find out a little bit about it. Sorry, Mom. So early on in my career, kind of like when I was 17 and going into university, I was paying for school. So one thing is like in high school, guys, like getting good grades is so important, and applying for scholarships is very important. It shows independence, and it really, you know, makes your CV and your resume really like long, like, ooh, you got this scholarship and this scholarship, and all you have to do is apply. People don't apply. There was times where even though I was applying for scholarships, I still needed more money for school. Scholarships were like my main source of income.
Yeah.
It was it. And then in my first couple of years of university, I was like, oh, like I wonder if I can make extra money. And it was actually a fluke. I went to this fashion show because I've always also been into fashion, and this girl kind of scouted me as like, oh, do you model? And I was like, no. And then that's how it kind of started.
And you were 17.
Yeah, I was 17.
When you came home and you told your parents, hey, I'm gonna be a model.
I never told them. That's why it's a secret. Yeah, so my parents didn't actually find out I modeled till like 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah, it was all like very hidden. And I think a lot of traditional families and women have the same problem that I do. Like, you kind of live these double lives. You go home and you're all like, hello, like, yes, I stay home. I come home at 6 o'clock every night. I don't have any friends. I study 24/7. But like in reality, we all know, like, we went to the park and met our boyfriend, and we like, you know, we modeled. And it came up like, that girl looks like you. Yeah, totally. She looks a lot like me. That's so weird. But I found modeling was, as you probably know, it's very inconsistent. And I think a lot of girls are like, oh, I want to be a model.
Yes.
And it's just, it's a means to an end if it works for you, but it's not an end goal career. Like, it's not a sustainable life.
No. We know that all of these young girls, they like build up these hopes for this amazing, long, luscious career.
Modeling. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like now it's bad, but it's gonna get worse, because 10 years ago, modeling was like, you're a model, not even 10 years ago, maybe like 20 years ago. You could have been like a full-time model, making an income, building your own thing. Now it's like you have YouTubers, you have social media stars, you have actresses, actors, singers, like all these artists that, I mean, models are not very... It's not profitable for companies to hire models as much as to hire influencers, because they come with a following. So All I'm saying is that it's not how it used to be, and it's gonna probably get worse.
Yeah, I agree.
So all of you who wants to model, I think it's great.
Yeah.
We both, you know, got amazing experiences and met great people through it. But
I agree.
Thank God we found other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Basically, what drove you and really helped you kind of shape your future and the decisions you made was that thing that you told yourself when you were a child, okay, this is exactly what I don't want to be and become, and this is it. And that was like in the back of your mind at all times.
Always.
Going forward.
Yes, yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no.
Because I feel like as a kid, it's like it's like you go into a candy store. That's life. And life is like modeling, boys, find a rich man, get married, don't work anymore. This, and you're like, I want everything.
No, but the problem is like even my younger sisters, had this. They didn't really see what my mom went through because they were so young.
Yeah.
And even them, I felt like they were like exactly like that. Like, oh, I'm gonna find a husband that that is gonna take care of me and you've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the only person you can rely on 100%.
Yeah.
And nobody else can be that person for you.
And it's not like a sad thing. I think that what I'm trying to, I find that sometimes feminism can sound a little bitter. When women are just like, you're the only one who can do it for yourself. And to me, it's like, it's not a bad thing. It's amazing. It's like you give yourself every single power in this world to do whatever you want, and you find a man that you love and you raise a family and you have all of that, which is amazing, but you also have all of you know what I mean? And that's kind of, I feel like, what I'm trying to promote. So it's not like men are bad for you.
No,
don't let a man pay for you ever.
No,
don't do that.
No, you let them pay.
Yeah, let them pay.
At least for the first thing.
Yes. But it's like also I feel like it's building that kind of confidence, gives you
more choice and flexibility, I think, right? Like when your happiness is not based on somebody else, then you have control of it.
Yes.
People are relying on other people and other things for happiness. But when you are actually, like when I got into medical school, I was like, and guys, I didn't get in the first time, right? And that's the other thing. People give up, right? Like,
you can't
so fast. You're like, oh my God, I'm helpless. Like I had that for like a day. You're allowed to say like, you're sad. It sucks, right? But then you gotta like pick it up and be like, no, like persistence is so key. And when I didn't get in, I was like, okay, well, like gotta try again. What can I do to get better? What can I do to increase my application, to volunteer more? Do I do whatever it is? And don't just give up. So you gotta just focus on that. And people, when you're independent, successful, and you're like comfortable in your own skin, guys, girls, whatever you're into, they're attracted to that.
100%, because you vibrate this energy where it's like, who's this person? I want to be around that person.
Which is why I wanted to be around Valeria.
Oh, girl, it's mutual. I understand that you basically grew up, you built your own confidence. Were you ever an insecure girl?
Yeah, I think we all go through phases of our lives.
Well, I think you went into really young.
Yeah.
I feel like I just got over it maybe like a few years ago. But you had quite a bit of...
Yeah, I had a lot of growth very young. But I definitely had areas, like there was points in my life, like for example, when I was, some girls might not know this, but being a doctor, I know this. When you're gonna go through a growth spurt, you gain a lot of weight and then you get tall. But I didn't know I was gonna get tall because everyone in my family is short. And so I gained a lot of weight and I was like, what's going on? I got called names, especially like, not even just my friends, but sometimes like my cousins, and I started feeling really insecure and it was hard. But I always thought to myself like, okay, like why is this happening? I would exercise to try to eat healthy, but then I was like, maybe this is just me. Like maybe this is my new body and whatever. And I remember the hardest point was like when I had to go to the mall and like buy pants that were like significantly larger in size. And I was like, okay, this is real. This is happening. It's not going away. So yeah, there were definitely points of insecurity, and even now, even as a model, like it's a rough business, right? Like it's not easy.
It's like a business. You're in the business of constantly comparing yourself to other people.
Exactly, constantly. It's like, oh my gosh, like now that I'm 29, although of course it's still young and like fresh, but you know, in this industry, like when I was 18, I was fresh, right? Now I'm 29, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here.
You're right.
I'm right for the picking. But like, I'm almost 30, and in this industry, it's like, oh, 30? Right? Like, that ain't cool.
I know.
But you don't give up, right? Like, this year I did Roots, and Roots is a young, like, Joe Fresh is young.
You're young and hip.
I'm young and hip, right?
What made you get into a medical field?
That's a great question.
Is that something that you always wanted to do? You
No,
mentioned that you wanted to be a lawyer. Why did you want to be a lawyer?
Yeah.
Is that just because people are like in society, lawyer, doctors, is a stable?
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good question. So I think that there is a piece of it that was like that financial stability definitely was appealing. When I wanted to do law, it's because I can be argumentative, and I thought, oh yes, like I get to argue and get paid for it. Yeah. But then what had happened was, like, when I worked at the courthouse, as I said, I was trying to volunteer there. I realized that a lot of being a lawyer is paperwork and behind the scenes. And I love people. And I was like, oh man, like I don't get to interact with people as much as I would like. And also a lot of it is just in school. Like, you got to let your own, like, what do you like to study, right? Like, you have to be true to yourself and think, like, what do I enjoy doing? What am I doing well in? What do I hate doing? And I would honestly, like, I hated like reading about the law, and I was like, why am I doing this? But I would excel in bio and science. So then I was like, you know what, Amiirah? Just be true to yourself. You know you like science, just do it. Just go into undergrad. And I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor then. I was just like, go into science. I just like picked a generic science field. And then I remember, because I had super long hair, so traditional Indian girls, I'm sure you guys have the same problem. You're not supposed to cut your hair. Once I was at McMaster, which is where I went to school, and they had this like fundraiser called like Smiling Over Sickness, and they had this girl like who actually had like, she was diagnosed with cancer as a child, and she came, she's like, your hair is so beautiful, and unfortunately one of the side effects of chemo is that she had no hair. And I said, and they were selling wigs, like for not selling, but like giving to these girls. And I was like, well, you know, like maybe like look at these hairs are so beautiful. She's like, yeah, but nobody has like really long hair. Like people donate like 10 inches, and so you just get like 10 inches, and that's the minimum you donate. She's like, I want like long hair like yours. And so I made the decision to like cut off like 20 inches of my hair.
What?
Yeah. So I went from like past my hips to here, and I donated the whole thing to her. I was like, you know what? You can have it. And then that was like the first time I had chills, because that was the first time I was like, oh my God, like I loved hanging out with her, I loved talking to her. And I thought to myself, like, maybe I want to like see what's it like a pediatric doctor. And so I started volunteering at the pediatric hospital at McMaster, and I like totally loved it. And that's when I decided.
So where did you find the courage? Because it really takes courage to decide, you know what, my parents they don't support this whole like going to study away and, you know, kind of pursuing my thing, or even modeling. So where did you find the courage to be like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna figure it out?
What it was, I think, multifactorial, but like I think my original courage was definitely my mom, and just seeing what she could do. And I think to myself, like, wow, like imagine like leaving a country, going to a place you don't know, raising 3 children in a place that's not your first language, you know, like 100 things. So to me, everything else just felt easy, right? I'm like, it's all relative in perspective, right? When you look at something like, this is so hard, you think, is it actually, like, I can achieve this? Because look at what other people have achieved. Like, you have to constantly remind yourself that you really can do anything. Like, you really can. Like, think about like Elon Musk. Sorry, just like random because I read his book. But you know, he came from like he went to Queen's University. He's built this massive company, right? And you sit there, you're like, he was just another person just like me, right? Like, anyone can do anything. You really just have to push yourself. So when I first started, it was definitely my mom, like putting everything in relative to her, like her perspective. Like, look what she did. I could apply to a scholarship. Look what she did. I can do a photo shoot. Moving forward now, I think I draw a lot of my like motivation and courage, because unfortunately in my field, I see how precious life is, you know, and I think people forget that you actually only have one life. You have one chance to experience things
and stretch your own limits, right?
100%.
And that's how I feel like that's the point that I'm at right now. I think for you, it's so amazing when it's because you have a daily reminder of it, right? And for a lot of people, they forget it. they don't remember that. And it's like sometimes when I hear people complain, or it's like, I can't do that, I can't do this, and I'm just sitting there, and sometimes I look at people, even friends, you know, they don't do anything with their lives. I'm like, you're so privileged. You live in this country where there's no limits to what you can do. You know, you can be anything you want. And it's like every single day you're sitting and wasting on thinking how, you know, impossible everything is. Yeah. What a waste.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, people are walking around here thinking that they're gonna be here forever.
Yeah, it's not true. It's not true, guys. Like, one thing I've learned for myself is how short life is. You know, I work with children, and they're amazing, but, you know, even in their sometimes have short lives, and I sit there and I think, like, how fortunate I am that I have my health. You know, I have the opportunity to try. I have my knowledge, my everything, right? Like, especially nowadays, like, look at you, like, she didn't know anything about YouTube, like, you know what I mean? And like, look at how amazing she's become, just doing her own research and just like being curious, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I find it so frustrating when I see, yeah, you're welcome. Like,
I mean, you know what, I feel like there's so many examples out there, people that have achieved greatness, that are coming from, you know, poverty, they're coming from third world countries. Like, it's just, there's so much out there to inspire you no matter where we are. I just feel like for some reason, not for some reason, it's because after speaking to Judith, I don't know if you saw my interview with Judith, after speaking to Judith, she really opened my eyes. Like, we are lacking so much in North America because we have too much in North America, right? So that's why so much success and so much of the greatness coming from, you know, the areas that they need to fight, and they need to figure out ways to survive, and they don't have time to think about, oh, it's not gonna work, and, you know, what's gonna happen if. They just do. And that's really missing in our society, unfortunately.
You're right.
Have you ever had like someone that, maybe it was you, that someone that's like your biggest fan, that always like keep pushing you and just like, you can do it, you can do it, Mimi, you can do it?
Yeah, Jakey and Ben. Oh, that's a very good, you know, I think it was myself. It sounds like, it's really weird, because I'm trying to actually genuinely, like, everyone's been very supportive, like, by all means, like, my parents, my siblings, like, everyone's been supportive.
But those, like, you know, those dark moments, or there's low moments, or it's like, you feel like, this is too much, I kind of want to, who was the one who's like, well,
I think it's myself, Valeria. Like, I don't know, like, I'm the only consistent person in my life. You know, like, I have, like, if I have really, like, sometimes I'm really down, like, I'll call my sister, and I'll be like, vent to her, and she'll always like, Amiirah, like, you know, you can do it. But in most circumstances, it's like those moments like in the middle of the night, sometimes when I'm at work and I'm overwhelmed, or, you know, like, recently I failed an exam, like, you know, and I'm like, I suck, you know, but then I have to think to myself, no, I did this. I'm good because I've done this. I have like key things that I go to in my mind that, like, I'm like, oh, these are things I've achieved. If I've done this.
That's so cool, because I did a video where like 4 or 5, I don't know, some number of things that helps you to keep staying motivated. And one of the things were like doing a brag list.
Oh, brag, yes.
Okay, so you make like a brag list in your mind, or even on paper, where you feel shitty and you feel like you suck. You kind of go back to this brag list and you're like, I did this, and I did this.
You made a video of that?
Yeah, but that's exactly what you did, right? Like, because you go back to be like, but look what I accomplished, and look what I've done.
Yeah, no, for real. So that's what I do. Like, even when I'm insecure, like, even in relationships, right? Like, sometimes you feel like your partner is maybe says something and does it not on purpose, or maybe on purpose, right? Like, that hurts your feelings, and you start to think of yourself, and you start to self-doubt, and you're like, maybe like, I'm not worth it, like, maybe and you're like, I'm like, no, like, I'm Amiirah. I'm whomever, right? Like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and like, if you can't see that, then you're not worth my time.
How did you deal with people who didn't believe in you? Did you ever encounter anybody that was like,
you know, actually, so in my culture, and it's like, divorce is like a really big deal, like, you're not supposed to, and there were times where I think, like, we're like, oh, Amiirah and her sisters are like, they don't have a father figure, they're gonna like maybe end up doing drugs, and they're gonna like do all these bad things that they're never going to be successful. And like I have to like my sisters and I, like one's like a nurse that's sick kids actually, the other one's an engineer, and you know it actually like
accomplished young women.
Yeah, you know, but that negative feedback or like that negative connotations like, oh, you're not going to make it, was a fuel for me.
Yeah.
It was like,
you just wait.
I will prove you wrong.
That's such a great way to spin, because I feel like we're all, you know, if it comes from us, you know, internally we're just like, you can't do this, or other people outside of yourself, like, you know, friends or family, that when you like spin it as like, you know, watch me, it's the best fuel. Do you have or had any role models?
I find for me, my role models change like based on where I am in my life.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the most amazing things about having a role model is like you want to be or emanate perspectives of that person, and then sometimes you achieve that, and then you get a new role model.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You need to move up.
In life, right? Like in life, it's based on what your environment is. So like growing up, like you know, for me it was definitely my mom, because I was like, I want to be someone who has the courage to like leave a guy. Like for her, that's so big, right?
Huge.
It's huge, right? I definitely drew that courage from her, and she always taught us to like be self-sufficient, to be like independent, and then I achieved that. I feel like I'm a self-sufficient, independent lady. Woo-hoo. Once I achieved that, I was like, okay, success. Now I'm like, okay, now who's the next role model? It's this like really amazing allergist. I'm actually doing allergy eventually, food allergy, who works at Sick Kids, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to be like her, because she's so kind, caring, she's, you know, and then so now hopefully when I achieve that, like I find another role model.
Amazing. I love it. How did you keep motivated through school? But I think we kind of touched on it, because you always had that goal in your head, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever make lists, like kind of a way for you to remind yourself where you're going? Or was it all in your head, or did you like keep, let's say, a list or something?
Well, like I think it's a bit of both. So like I've always had this goal, like when I decided I wanted to be a pediatric, you know, doctor, that was like the main list in my back of my mind. I didn't need to like write that, but you know what I did do is like people have goals, but you have to think about like what do I need to do to get to these goals? Like it's one thing to say I want to be something, but you have to actually do it, right? So basically I like would talk to people who are doctors, you know, and I'd be like, okay, what do I need to do this? And so then those were like kind of the lists I would make, like goals always like, oh, I need to whatever, write the MCAT. I need to get this mark on the MCAT. What do I need to do to get this mark? Okay, I need to enroll in this course.
Completely stripping it down.
Stripped down. To like, what is it? Because there's so much left, right?
It's true.
So
and you know, I have this, and I always talk with my husband about it. I'm like, for me, my goal right now is to really learn how to, because you know, I want so much and I can see the big picture, but it also overwhelms me, because I'm like, but how do you even get there? And I mean, that's, I feel like, the secret to success, right? It's like everyone can be, you know, I want to be a rock star, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a YouTube star, like everyone can say that, but what are, you know, it's this strategy, that kind of clear steps that you need to tell yourself what you need to do that leads you there, right?
You need to build it. The key thing is with strategy, at least from what I found, it doesn't matter what field you're in, it's like finding people who have done it or something similar to give you advice. Like mentorship is so important.
Yes, and I feel like in your field actually they're pretty big on it, right? Mentorship.
They are, yes.
I think there's a few specific like fields where they kind of emphasize that part. I feel like it's so important in life in general.
I think people should have mentors in life, right? Like I think, you know, even growing up, like I had this person who was like 10 years older than I was, but I would talk to when I just didn't know, right? Like mentorship is so important, and I think that like doesn't matter if you're in medicine or in YouTube or whatever, rock star, right? Like you got to start somewhere.
How do you balance your work as a doctor and modeling, and you were mentioning how it's important for you to prioritize. So do you feel like prioritizing, it changes every kind of stage for you? So right now you said that, you know, as a doctor, that's what you focus on, this is your priority right now.
Right now, yes.
Yeah.
Right now for me, because I'm just like in the stages of finishing, I have a lot of exams and I have a lot of dedication and still building up that career. So I need to make connections, I need to network. See, it's all about life. Where do I see myself in 5 years, 10 years? You always have to ask yourself, right? Where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself? Because tomorrow is tomorrow, right? But if you don't know where you see yourself, how do you work there? So I know eventually.
I'm having the stupidest smile right now because I always say, like, what would future Valeria benefit? Will she benefit from this decision?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? It's always like my future self, my future self.
Right now that's a priority for me, and then maybe in 5 or 10 years it'll change once I've had a job that I'm established in, maybe having a family, or you know, like, so that's how. So yeah, balance is all about prioritizing and thinking like what is important now, because you can get overwhelmed, right? Very easily.
So what happens when you get overwhelmed, or when you get stressed out, when you just feel like I can't do this anymore?
Yeah,
what
no.
do you do?
For me, I actually take a break, like a timeout, because sometimes things are super overwhelming in the moment, and I'm like, oh my god, I have like this paper due, I have like, you know, 6 things to do at work, and like whatever, and so, and I have 2 jobs for modeling, and like, how am I gonna like fix this? I just be like, okay, timeout. I'm going to go for a massage, or like I'm gonna go for a run, and I find just like disconnecting myself for that hour. And it's the same thing in a fight, right? Like you're with your partner or your friend, you know, it's getting heated, and it's all about that emotion. Or we're humans, we're driven by emotion and adrenaline and cortisol. So by stepping away from it, breathing, are able to think more clearly. So that's what I do. I like take a time out, whether it's a day, sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's an hour.
How do you stay mentally strong? I guess that's what it is, right? It's about like kind of making it clear for yourself, prioritizing, know when to take time off.
And surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yes, so important.
So important, right? Like even Oprah had talked about this, like that you are the people that you are around.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like in the last 4 years, like maturity-wise, I have realized like I have wasted a lot of time with a lot of people.
Yeah.
That don't matter. And it's not because they don't matter to life, like it just for my purposes and like what I want to achieve. I think surround yourself with those the right type of people. I remember I used to like have this like a couple friends that I didn't really want to hang out with them, and I would always like get nervous when they were texting, like, oh my god, are they mad at me? Like and I always felt like anxious and negative around them, and like I was like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's
but
true.
we do it. Like we stay in these relationships that are productive. And so in the last few years, I stay mentally sane because I have really like strategically said like Valeria is a great person, and I make an effort, and we make efforts to hang out because I think she mentally is very positive, motivating, and so I hang out with her, and I have other friends that I do that with, and so it's about the people around you.
I always keep repeating myself, being selfish is the best thing you can do for yourself, because you know what, it's good to identify the people or parts in your life that don't benefit you. It's okay to think about yourself first, and that's my approach with everything in life, because that makes me happy and that affects all the people around me to be happy. So it's the same with my family. Like I always take care of myself first. It's like you know how in the airplane they give you that you have to put on your mask on yourself first before somebody else?
It's true.
This is it.
Life.
This is life. So next time you're on a flight, you watch that video and you understand everything we're talking about, right? Because if you are not sane, if you can breathe, if you are not normal, like how can you help anyone else that you want to help?
That's such a great example.
How self-love feels like.
That's a very deep question. You know?
I know, I feel like there's we can talk about this for like hours.
Yeah, but you know what self-love is for me is confidence, you know, and self-assurance. And when you have that feeling, I find people are drawn to you because you're self-confident. Like you're like, oh, I love myself because of these amazing qualities that I have. And if somebody's gonna put you down, you're not even affected by it, right? You're like,
because you know your own worth.
Yeah.
How do you know you don't love yourself the right way? I think that if you put yourself down, I know that I had points in my life where I was like, you're stupid and you're not gonna get this and you're not smart enough, and I was like my own biggest enemy.
Yeah.
So I think that the number one kind of alert for yourself is, do you treat yourself the way you want other people to treat you? Because if you don't, you're not gonna get it from anywhere else.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
It all starts here. because you teach people how to treat you, you teach people how to love you, so it really starts here. So we're doing the last question, just because I don't want it to be an hour and a half YouTube video, because we can keep going. Like, whoa. When you run out of motivation, what do you do to kind of spark it again?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right? Because I feel like, I mean, all of us are like, sometimes you just drain. You're like, I can't, there's nothing else. I can like...
I guess I draw motivation from other people. Sometimes I'm finding myself like, you know, exhausted or like, oh, I just want to give up. Sometimes it's as simple as like watching a documentary about, you know, like somebody,
100%.
like it sounds silly, but like my Netflix is filled with like documentaries of watching, like there's this girl who like, I think she's from this really small town in like in the Middle East, and she wanted to be a squash player. This is like a movie that just came on TIFF as well, and she like how she got there and she was motivated to do it and how she pretended to be a boy, and I'm like, oh God, like she did that. I can do whatever.
I think that's actually the purest and most amazing source of motivation, other people. And it's all around us too. I mean, sometimes, you know, like you meet someone that can just tell you a little part of their story and you're like, it sparks something in you.
Yeah.
So I think motivation comes from everywhere. You just need to open yourself to that. Motivation doesn't even need to be that big or grand. Like it doesn't need to be some like kind of something that hits you in the head. You're like, oh, and that's what I think people are kind of waiting for. Something that will be literally like, but to me, motivation is this like little moments, you know? Oh my God, I have to tell you this story. Thursday, I came back from work from modeling and I was working like all day. And then I came home, I had to edit the video, I posted it and I was like so tired. And Jakey came to me when I came home, he ran to me, like hugged me and he's like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, what is this child? That was the biggest motivation. I'm like, it's gonna be the best video. It was the best day. I was freezing my ass off on the roof, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that motivations come from everywhere. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got just a little inspiration from us. Amiirah is on Instagram and I'm gonna link it in the description if you have any questions. I mean, I don't think she's really available, but a little bit.
I'll try my best. I'll try my best. Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Yay!
Okay, guys, love you.
Bye.
Okay, let's go eat now.
Yeah.